So welcome everybody. My name is Terry Maxwell, and I'm really excited that you're here for this webinar. But more importantly, we were so excited about the content and the collaboration between these two experts who are actually competitors in their industry, but found that they had a lot in common, that we're going to be recording this and putting it on our public page and also making it available in the core for all of our members. Just as a quick introduction, SHIFCO provides several free learning events each month. And we have Pure Confidence coming up in June, and Turning Point, Should I Scale My Business for Impact or Growth, also in June. You're welcome to join any of these events at any time free. You can also find out more about us at shifco.global or on our YouTube page. So just as a quick intro, I started this purposeful journey to inspire potential, which is my purpose, about 12 years ago. And I started the equivalent of a purposeful Shark Tank called Share on Purpose. It was way harder than I thought it would be. But I ended up with this really cool thing. And Share on Purpose does two things. We cultivate game-changing brands that make the world better. And then we have a speculator fund leveraging profits will invest in brands that make the world better. So SHIFCO is actually a product of the cultivator. And I can tell you emphatically that what I learned about conscious business is my business doesn't grow when I do marketing. My business grows as I evolve. And the reason why that's important to SHIFCO is a product of a lot of the evolution that I went through as a conscious leader and as a conscious business leader in particular. We developed for our cultivator, for our businesses, something called the Conscious Business Growth Platform. And every one of those little colored circles there is a different business phase. And what gets your business to one phase is not what gets it to the next phase. So as I learned a lot of these very expensive mistakes, I documented everything. I literally wrote everything down, every failure, every mistake, everything that worked, and began working on this business process that's patent pending for each one of these different phases. And now today we have 5 successful brands. For the first time ever, they're all profitable, which is really nice. And SHIFCO again is the 5th one. So one of the big lessons that I learned, I grew up an athlete and I'm very competitive and I love to win. And I noticed that when I went into conscious business, that a lot of the things that I thought and a lot of the things that I did didn't work anymore. And one of those things was competition. You really can't compete in conscious business the way that you can in traditional business. There's several reasons for that I don't want to waste time on right now. But what I did find is that when I collaborated, I made more money and that I was more successful. And the more that I collaborated, the more success that I had, the more I began to put down my sword and stop fighting and stop trying to win and stop trying to be the best, the easier it became. And so SHIFCO was founded on this principle that for brands that truly want to make the world better, collaboration is really the new currency, meaning that is the way that you will grow. So there's no other way to show you how powerful that is than to share the story of us having this idea that we were going to take 2 competitive businesses and put them together to see what that product would be. And we've tried it in a couple of different spaces. We have marketers that work together in a collective, technologists that work together. But I was really curious in the creative arts, where our art is our work and it's our brand, how this would work. And I've been absolutely enthralled with the end product, but more importantly, the deepening of the relationship that occurred. So this idea for this webinar came from the idea that we would simply power growth through competition, through collaboration. And I'm having a little trouble, Sherry, getting it over to you. So if you can take it, Sherry. Sherry's going to take the helm and walk through their techniques. But the idea that when 2 competitors come together to collaborate with the only purpose of sharing their ideas, sharing their beliefs, sharing the way that they view the world, that we get a phenomenal product. So Sherry, take it take us through this process, tell us what you learned, and share these incredible ideas that you have for our audience.
Cool. Is everybody seeing what we're seeing when the only thing you want to go viral is your image? Just give me a thumbs up or a great. And actually, Claire is going to kick us off, and here we go.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Indeed, this has been a really great experience working with Sherry, collaborating on this. So our presentation here for you is when the only thing you want to go viral right now is your image. So we're going to share some sound, or visual rather, advice on using imagery to grow your business. So I'm Claire Donison, and with my life and business partner, Andy, we are Only One Andy Wright Photography and Design. And we capture dynamic, powerful photos for you and your brand. Now, Andy's background is in IT, which for me comes in very handy. And he made the move to follow his passion for photography about 16-ish years or so. So I'm the COO of the biz with about years experience in customer care. And I'm also an NLP master practitioner. So our paths crossed in the music biz in Toronto about 4 years ago, and we clicked. Okay, enough bad puns for now. We're based in Kitchener, Ontario, conveniently halfway between Toronto and Buffalo, where we have our studio, and we're also mobile, so we can travel to you wherever that may be. So how we run our business and the quality of our work is very much aligned with my collaborator and co-host, drumroll.
Thanks, Claire. I feel like a star. I love how our stories are so aligned. I am Sherry Phillips here, COO of Deutsch Photography in New York City. Let's see, so our origin story. I really wish that y'all could join me in a bar for this part. When we met, Brett Deutsch was a corporate lawyer. I was an advertising exec. And after our wedding, with our pockets stuffed full of moolah from our very lucrative and very soul-draining jobs, we quit and we backpacked around the world for a year, which sounds foolhardy, and it probably was, but sometimes audacity pays off, and it did this time. At the time, and still today, actually, what most lights me up is learning and sharing stories of people around me. Brett was an amateur photographer at the time, but on that trip, it became very clear to both of us as we backpacked from country to country that his true calling was storytelling through photography. So 18 months after returning, we gave birth to our dream, Deutsch Photography. But enough about us, let's talk photography. So check this out. Which side of the screen registered with you more quickly? Our world is packed with distractions and messaging at every turn, but images are so powerful. Catch our customer's eye before they turn away. A few facts and figures. Words and images fire up different parts of our brains, as I'm sure you already know, and humans are hardwired to respond to images instantaneously, whereas language takes a little more work. Recall and comprehension increase dramatically, as you can see here, 65% versus 10 when images are used. If you want your LinkedIn, I think I'm connected to most of you, if not all of you, on LinkedIn. Oops, here's my phone. Sorry about that, y'all. If you want your LinkedIn post to work harder and have more impact, then include meaningful images. This is one that Brett shot of ice caves in Antarctica, and we ran it on Earth Day. If you're selling services or products, include photos. By way of example, on eBay, products with images sell at 200 times the rate of those without. I see Kathy G is on here, and her amazing business would not survive without photography. And to triple that boost, use original photography, not stock. Finally, take advantage of your space with visuals wherever you're communicating, whether that's on your website or on social media or in newsletters. And here's an example from LinkedIn on the left. We have the amazing Andy Wright of Andy Wright Photography with his beautiful work highlighted behind him. On the right, we have my makeup artist friend, Anna Hoffman, but you wouldn't know it. She needs to up her LinkedIn game. So key takeaway, if you want clients and prospects to remember you, use photos in your marketing. And actually, let me just revise that a little bit. If you want them to remember you favorably, use good photos in your marketing, because the bad ones are not forgotten either. And with that,
I'm glad you amended that, because there's definitely a noticeable difference between, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So first, let's show you some of the ones that are bad and ugly. Okay, cool. Back of heads. Blurry, I think that's a burger. This one's totally blown out. Background there, it's terrible. Oh, don't use a vintage photo. Please don't, please don't. Oh, really bad lighting on this piece of jewelry. Creativity gone wrong. What's going on there? The reflection in the glasses, that's me taking one for the team there. A badly staged real estate shot, possibly, and there's a lot of clutter in the background here. All right, now let's take a look at the brighter side, like what's great about these. So there's character, you've got interaction, you've got personality, you've got caring, you've got something that's thoughtfully styled, there's a connection, it's well lit, look at that house, eh? It's nicely composed, it's focused, Oprah, and they pop. Right? So your key takeaway number 2 is a skilled professional photographer knows how to compose, how to light, focus, and capture the energy and emotions of their subjects. Right? So what's in it for you, your brand, and your business, right? So really, what is a brand? So a brand is the way a company, a product, or an individual is perceived by those who experience it. So much more than just a name or a logo or your color scheme, your brand is the recognizable feeling that these assets evoke. So the photos up here on screen are from a brewery here in Guelph, Ontario called Wellington Brewery. So they've got some really fun cell phone user-generated selfie photography, but it's anchored by really solid professional photography. So there's definitely room to incorporate both, right? You've got some spontaneous, immediate content. It can certainly be integrated into the mix. So there's really no all or nothing solution. But danger, Will Robinson, danger. If you're not clear on your messaging and what you stand for, what makes yours an absolute must-have in terms of product or service, and if you don't decide what your brand is, then someone else will. So some of you might remember the old ads with PC versus Mac, and in the absence of any advertising for PC themselves, the Mac brand stepped into that breach and they positioned themselves as cool and young and hip, and they labeled the PCs, you know, as really old school and stodgy, right? No, that's not what you want. You don't want someone else coming along and telling you or saying what your brand is. You want to say what your brand is. So one of the most important aspects of establishing an attractive brand is that ability to clearly convey who you are, what your business is, while you're offering your customers something that's immediately recognizable as desirable or aspirational. So people are busy. We're scrolling through the content on all these different platforms. We're paying way more attention to the pictures, the images, than the words. So professional photography empowers you to tell this story without saying a word. Now, a quarter of marketers are investing in content marketing, with just over 20% investing in branded storytelling, which isn't a lot. So we'll have more on that later. Back over to you, Sherry.
I completely agree with what you just said. Just to highlight a couple more brands here. At the top is Dove. Dove uses real people in their advertising now, never models. The photos are eye-catching and they're relatable because those are real people, and they're definitely memorable. At the bottom, Everlane shows their products on real people and illustrates the story. That's a sewing machine with the material, and it does have words beneath it that aren't shown here, to show how they construct their clothing sustainably. And at the right, that's my sis. That's my sister. Proud of her. That's Dawn, sourcing grapes from a local vineyard in Washington State. They use behind the scenes photos really effectively on their website and on social media to emphasize Truth Teller, which is the label, Truth Teller's authenticity and personality, which increases conversions. And finally, seeing is believing. In other words, photos add to your credibility. As for differentiation, stock photos make you look like everyone else, which is exactly the opposite of what any of us want. And staying top of mind, remember, even after several days, people have 65% recall of messages with an image versus 10% recall without. So key takeaway 3, well-executed, curated photos can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you while you devote your attention to other key areas of your business. And as the wise words of famed businessman and educator Peter Drucker, do what you do best and outsource the rest.
Amen.
So are you thinking, and Claire can vouch for this, but I've only got a limited budget for marketing, Claire and Sherry. So how the heck am I supposed to get this done? Hey, we get that. We're in the same boat. And we've got some inside tips on how to make your dollars go further. Starting with the don'ts, not to be naysaying, but because we've had thousands of clients and we've seen the pitfalls. And in fact, as Brett and Andy will vouch, we've fallen into some of these pits with our own businesses over the years.
Oh, yes.
So first of all, do not show up at the shoot without a plan. Know what you want, and then be open to ideas.
Don't break the bank, but don't pay bottom dollar either.
Yeah, please. Do not present a false image. Guaranteed fail.
And don't forget that you are the expert about your brand.
And now for the do's. Do think through what you want to communicate. We encourage our clients to take advantage of our free upfront consult so that we can get to know them and help guide their photography decisions. And then we spend some time brainstorming about words and visuals and environments that will succinctly express what they want to communicate. So I'm just going to take you through a few examples from our own client base. Let's see. Let's start with our client, purely Patricia. So Patricia is an artist, a stylist, and an educator in New York City. The words we came up with together that encapsulate her are colorful, original, stylish, fearless, opinionated, injects energy into every project. Bill is the owner and leader of Untitled Studios. After speaking in depth, we decided to photograph Bill in his studio, papering it everywhere to create this uber clean white environment that reinforced a sense of inner focus, which aligns with his philosophy, while also communicating the key traits of discipline, precision, fitness, balance, and calm. Barbara is the CEO of Crenshaw Associates. That's a company here that works with corporations to develop top talent through training and supporting executives through key transitions. Given her keywords, intelligent, confident, powerful, natural leader, knowledgeable, and strategic, we decided to show her in action, and we went on location to photograph one of her seminars. So this is just a few examples of how your photographer can work with you to get the most out of your shoot. Finally, here's Brian, who founded Photoshop Jam, which provides entertaining education for kids. So we convinced him to bring along his whole team in full and resplendent costumes, as you can see, and we headed up to a New York City rooftop. And though we kept Brian front and center and practically levitating, we also made sure that each team member held their own space within the photo. Brian uses these photos pretty much everywhere, on Photoshop Jam's website, on their social media, on posters for performances, on an album cover that they did, and more. So how do you land on those words? How do you land on who you are and what you want to project? Do create a mood or vision board before the shoot. That may sound a little groovy, but really it's just a way to organize and focus your thoughts and hone in on key themes. So start by thinking verbally, and this is just an example of what Brett and I did. And then translate that into visuals by cutting them out of magazines or going on digitally or whatever works for you, drawing them yourself. We've had clients actually do little cartoons. And then finally, most importantly, now that you've got that all under your belt, share and discuss with your photographer, because communication plus clarity equals better, more impactful photos that are actually true to you and your business. So Claire, I know you've got some do's as well.
I do. I'm going to brand the word clarity, add an I and an E in it, clarity. So do stretch your dollars by brainstorming the realm of possibilities for using your images. Now, Sherry mentioned that for a minute there about, especially with edutainment. Storytelling is a fundamental human experience that unites people and drives stronger, deeper connections. That's a great quote from Forbes magazine. So awesome. I know I've got to tell stories. I hear that a lot, storytelling. But what the heck does that mean? So I wanted to share with you that we work with the head of marketing at the Charcoal Group of Restaurants here in Ontario. And ahead of time, before any shoot, we go over a shoot list. So that is the who, what, where of what we're shooting. It's what photos are going to be used and where. So are you using them for social media? Are they for print? Any specs in terms of lighting, the setups or themes, what they're looking to convey. So we've worked together for a long time, so they can always refer to previous assignments to give us direction, or they can provide us something new, like a vision board, something that they got inspiration from elsewhere. And we're encouraged to brainstorm with our ideas with them, which is the dream way for any of us to work with a client. So they had an event that they were participating in called Food Day Canada, where the menus are created specifically for the event. And the focus is on locally grown foods. It's on innovative recipes using fresh ingredients. And it's about sustainability and the impact of our eating habits and what they have on the planet. So it's an event that's very much aligned with how they do business on a daily basis. So this is a really great, sustainable focused company. So we captured him there shopping at the local St. Jacobs Market, where he personally chose the food items for the menu. So they used these on social media ahead of the event to generate buzz. And then the day of, we took photos during the event itself, and we got them to them same day, so they had an immediate response. And it was a really fun, really team-spirited kind of day to participate in. So restaurants had to contend with ever-changing rules around the pandemic. I know here in Ontario, probably around the world, capacity numbers, you're open, you're closed, what's going on? Very, very challenging. They created some really fun special events with guest chefs and also partnered, they collaborated with local breweries and vineyards. So the photos needed to show that they were open, that they were scheduling exciting, unique events, and that they were taking very seriously the health and safety protocols that were in place for COVID-19. And that's both for patrons and for staff alike, right, during a really challenging time. So we're at an event, special event, some damn fine food that was being served. So that really had to be put in the spotlight. A lot of energy there, the rub being put on. And just have a look at this. Have you had lunch yet? Anybody hungry? You can smell it. Now, when you're at an event, you want to show people at the event enjoying it, right? So we're always mindful of that because people are there at an event, so we're mindful of their privacy, and we always ask permission to take their photo, right? This handsome guy just didn't hesitate. He's like, sure, come on, take photos. So we easily could have taken one of those awkward ones, right? Where the photographer wanders from table to table and you take a really awkward photo with a flash and everyone looks terrible. Yawn, boring. Instead, Andy crouched down and he took a photo that's way more interesting and candid. And the idea here, the story here, is to create that FOMO, the fear of missing out. So when they posted these pictures, people were excitedly asking about the next one. They were generating enthusiasm. So seating was limited at the event, so was staff. It was an all hands on deck, multitasking mode. They had a lot of prep and service to attend to. And in this one, you can really feel the energy, right?
Cheers to that.
Hey, then they did the unthinkable. They opened a new restaurant in the middle of a pandemic when there are loads that are closing. So firstly, let's get some shots of the location. They always want pictures of the exterior and the interior. Now it creates a buzz. Now opening soon, the doors, the imagery of that's really, really strong. And then you also have this sort of imagery that they use consistently for things like prospectuses, where they're looking for new location sites, they're looking for new investors, they're looking for people. These ones aren't always seen by the public, but they wanted those ones particularly taken. Now they're sharing a story here of being leaders in the hospitality industry because they're opening one. Took some shots they wanted taken of the story of how they train their teams, right? So the wait staff are trained on the menus and the ingredients, and they're able to confidently answer questions that patrons have about the menus. They have the bartending staff there learning the ingredients and the recipes and garnishes, and they have the kitchen staff learning how to prepare and plate. So these stories are crafted here about they take care of their people, they care about the staff, and they make sure that they have the tools to succeed. They're also communicating to customers that there's a consistent level of quality of service and of food and beverages served across the chain, right? And they use these as part of recruitment initiatives because really, what a great place to work that they care about their people. Just a fun shot of the team in the kitchen. They had masks on, they're having a good time. So it's fun for team building, and it's also great back to commitment, to recruitment, right? So again, the COVID rules, you all heard about them. They changed quickly. Patios are open, closed. Restaurants are open, closed. You can dine in 10, you can dine in 50. You have to respond to that really, really quickly. So what do you do when you've got full fridges and you've got, your shelves are stocked? You have to ramp up your other options. You pivot, right? So they ramped up their takeaway and they added curbside contactless pickups. So we included a shot there that had that information on the bag in the back there. But the focus here really is that you can still enjoy the same great food. And this fried chicken is to die for. So now you can enjoy their food in the comfort of your own home, right? So they're conveying here like, hey guys, we've thought of everything. Look at this. We've got, your wet naps and your sauces, and we even have the option for you to purchase alcoholic beverages with your meal. They wanted to show people that they were still having, staff there giving it their best, and they're diligently filling orders. So they're packed up and ready to go with an eye to recyclable packaging, right? Which aligns with their social responsibility goals that they had sort of from Food Day. You're keeping top of mind with your customers who had to, keep track of what was open and what was closed, right? A lot of us turned to baking and cooking big time during pandemic. My waistband will tell you that. So they added meal kits to their menus, right? So it was the same great ingredients and quality that you would have gotten if you'd gone to the restaurant itself, but you didn't have to go into the grocery store and figure out how the heck, what do I need for this? They had it all there prepared for you with instructions, packed up, ready to go. Prepare it whenever you want it, right? So the message here for the customers is, we're listening to what you want. We've heard what you're asking for. Here it is. Then they added gift baskets so you could participate in the global shop local movement. Everyone wanted to do that, right? Avoid the big online stores and that kind of thing, shop local. So they put together some gift baskets that were really, really cool. And this shot, as opposed to just straight on, looking right at the basket, this one gets you curious, like, what's in it? What's in that basket? What's that Tyranny thing over there, right? Gets you curious. What's in this one? What's in the one behind it? So it's a lot of fun. So then they thought, hey, let's try some new stuff too. So they added some graphics. So they added graphics for promotional menu items. They're used online and they were printed up and used in the restaurants. And those are really eye-catching, really different.
Oh my God. Can I just interrupt? I'm drooling all over my monitor.
Right, now this one we went away from the usual sort of just looking over the food or at the side view of the food, point of view images, right? So you just imagine yourself biting into this, right? Makes you want to be there. And it's reminding customers that, you can still order this for takeout and curbside. And they continue to have new menu items and promotions. It keeps the customers, top of mind, and it keeps them eager, asking like, well, what's next? What have they got coming up next, right? Also, they repurposed photos. So I mentioned earlier how we took some interiors and exteriors of the businesses that are used mostly for prospectuses. Now they cleverly used these on their website where they had an enhanced online ordering portal. So it makes you eager to return. Here's the doors, here's the locations. Like, oh yeah, when you're ordering something, like, oh, I want to go back to Cambridge and sit there, right? It makes you eager to return. And they also have a teaser of the new downtown Toronto location opening up. Woohoo! Right? So stretch the realm of possibilities so you can see how powerful the use of imagery is to promote their stories of, resilience and innovation, social responsibility, quality, fun, and more. So you can use your photos, right, from one event to draw attention to the next. You're writing newsletters, you're sending out emails, you're writing a book, you need a book cover, you've got bios, you've got things you need for print, billboards to promote when you're on Oprah, right, Terry? And both Deutsch Photography and Only One Andy Wright, we repurposed our own photos and they were on the event banner for this webinar. So we're sort of, proof in the pudding. So think of your photos as branding assets or your marketing collateral. They can be repurposed and used in so many ways that you may think of and ways that you may not have thought of and that come to you later, right? So it's a really smart investment. A couple more do's. Do visit the galleries of the potential photographers and choose wisely. So just avoid the cookie cutter ones, right? Where you go in and it's, one background, same poses, they may as well yell, next. It's like a production line, right? Don't do that. And then also be careful of the artists, right? This is my vision, my art. I don't do that. I won't deviate from that. I work this way or not at all. You don't want to work with that either, right? So lastly, do meet with your photographer before hiring. Now that can be, in person if you're lucky, it can be on Zoom, it can be on a call, but make sure that you're the right fit for each other, right? Speaking of right fits, go back over to Sherry.
All right, so this is what you're going to look for when you're looking for your next photographer. Absolutely, proven talent and skills. The proof is in the pudding, as Claire just said. So first and foremost, make sure you like the work and that the photographer has the chops, especially as it applies to your needs. You should be able to access the work through websites or Instagram. If it's not accessible, don't believe it. And if their past work doesn't strike a chord with you, then please don't expect their future work to do so. Keep on looking.
Keep on trucking. You want to be clear about who they are. So being honest and communicative. Be clear about who they are and what they do. Is this product achievable, right? In regards to your budget, your time requirements, your schedules, the objectives, expectations, pricing, what is and what isn't included, right? And be careful when you're looking at a photographer, make sure it is the same one who will actually be doing the photography and not a team or an assistant or someone else, right? An upfront discovery call. Sherry made mention of it earlier. We do that as well. This is all about what those needs, expectations are, and what the action plans are, right? We need to ensure that we're all on the same page. And people use different words and terms, and you might not know exactly what the right words are to explain something, which is where a really good, strong conversation, there's going to be probing and paraphrasing and making sure that we're all clear, right? And do fill in the photographer if you are working with a team. So if you've got a marketing manager or a social media manager, graphic designer, PR person, because this team should all be working together to move you forward.
And just a note on that, as far as collaborative goes, we are working together, but as you well know, as owners of businesses, you're the owner of your brand, and you've worked really hard to figure out what your vision is. What we're here for is to help you realize that vision. We have a lot of ideas about, how to do that. Claire and I aren't shy. Brett and Andy aren't shy. But if you don't like an idea, please say so. Don't sit back and go, oh, well, you're the photography expert. No. We will not be offended. This is about you. Our goal every time is to take what's in your head and your heart and bring it to life. And while we won't hesitate to express our opinion, that's mainly because we are on the same team when it comes to representing your brand authentically and beautifully.
Absolutely. And make sure they're flexible. We're flexible, right? Hey, life happens. There's things you can't control. And we make every effort to accommodate changes in your plans, changes in your creative ideas or the timeframes. And this goes back to the honesty part. We'll review with you what can and what can't be done, and we'll find a solution that works for all of us.
And finally, both of our outfits are very sincere about putting your safety first. And without further ado, I'll just give you a quick example of how we photographed a real estate team during the middle of the pandemic. Voila. So
That is
key
so cool. So cool.
Thanks. So key takeaway number 4, great photography can power the growth of your brand and your business. Don't hesitate to dream big, and we will try to make it happen in your photos by creating photos that inspire and communicate, because we've all collaborated.
Yes, because we know what you want is the good stuff. So let's take a quick look at some. Yes, I'm going to say it. Great work. Okay.
Yikes. I'm going to back up there, Claire, because jump the gun on that. There we go.
It's because you're so excited. They're so great. So as you can see, both of our outfits are what we would call multidisciplinary. So what does that mean? We're not niche. We don't just do one kind of photography. We're the Swiss Army knives of photography. Our talent is special, but our view is that shooting a wide variety of subjects ups our game on all fronts, right? So the dynamic energy that's generated by photographing different subjects, the photographers keep them really, really interested and creative. It elevates the quality of our work across the board. And for you, that means that you can hire one outfit as a curator of your brand, and it results in a unique look and feel across all your messaging and platforms while keeping your story and your brand consistent. So key takeaway number 5, you want the good stuff, and your brand is worth the good stuff.
And there you go. That concludes our show and tell. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Miss Sherry.
Follow us on social media. We will either post in the chat or we will follow up with our links. And thank you so much for joining Claire and me while we talked about 2 of our favorite things, storytelling and photography. So Terry, I'm going to pass the steering wheel back over to you. But meanwhile, we are also open to answering any questions if you have them.
I've got a couple of questions. So one of the things that you said that I think is pretty impactful is how you can reuse your photography. And I think when people are looking at the investment, they're not thinking that way. They're thinking, oh, this is just headshots and I might use, use a few here, use a few there. And tell us a little bit more about extending the investment. And then also, when is it a good time to really upgrade the game? Is there like a certain time in your business? Is there when something special is happening? Those two questions I frequently get from entrepreneurs all the time.
So I'll take on part of that, and then Claire, go on.
Sure.
So as far as, I'm going to go backwards because that kind of depends on how much money, what is your budget, can help steers how far you can go with your photography. There are many ways to extend a dollar, whether you're investing, $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. So your last question was, when do you know how to up your game, or when do you up your game? And I think honestly, that is not a question of money as much as it is a question of your business plan. So if you're expanding your audience, if you're changing your messaging, if you are have come up with new things that you want to express about your image, that's when you need to consider redoing your photography. If you don't have a social media game and you're getting into social media, schedule your shoot, because nothing works more powerfully on social media than images. Claire, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, very much so. There's something really powerful about having your own, library of images ready to go, because there's a lot of information about how, if you're using stock imagery in particular, how it pushes you down the Google searches. And there's sometimes inspiration comes to you out of nowhere. And what's really exciting is if you already have these photos that, oh my God, I could use that. Right? Like I sort of talked about with charcoal there, they had pictures that they had taken for other purposes, and they were able to use them now to really promote the idea of come back into the restaurant. So repurposing them is something that's really great. Like we have some images that, had been intended to be used for art, and someone has used them on their book cover. We've got people who are using them, like I said, for this event. We had no intention of using, Brett, when we took those photos, they were just sort of behind the scenes photos of Brett and Andy, and we were able to use them on this event. And, as you're writing newsletters, as you're becoming a speaker for an event, as you are, you're online more and more, and people get this image fatigue where if you see the same photo over and over again, you kind of tune that person out. So being able to use them in different ways is really a lot of fun. And that's something that's part of the conversation that we have ongoing with customers, with clients. We talk about it up front. That's part of the discovery call is, where do you want to use these? Like, where are you already online? What are you already doing? And then repurposing them, which could be on, the idea of taking, like we're looking at this webinar, and we can possibly repurpose some of what we're doing here. It's the same idea with photos. You can use them elsewhere. You could perhaps crop them differently. You could perhaps, change different things about them that you can use them again. And some of the photos are, definitely time sensitive, like with masks and stuff, but some of the photos you could use, forever.
Oh, those are great pieces of advice. So one is anytime you're elevating your game for whatever the reason is based on your strategy, that's a good time to invest in photography. And then secondly, think more broadly from the beginning when you're first working with the photographer to plan all of the different ways that you're going to use that so that you can maximize the investment. Any other suggestions? Because those two questions entrepreneurs ask me all the time.
That's great. And then we sort of took it out of the presentation because we weren't sure that, how long we were going to go. But there are things that, that quote from Peter Drucker where do what you do best, outsource the rest. There's things that as photographers we know you need in terms of, there's things called hex codes and CMYK, and there's resolution. You need something for, high res for print, and you need different things. You don't need to know all that. you might want to learn, sure, but there's so much to it that a professional photographer knows how to do that already. And so if you've got a little bit of budget at the beginning to sort of set yourself up for success, do it. But again, don't break the bank, right? You've got to be in charge of your business.
I think actually to that point about not breaking the bank and about what you were saying, Terry, about extending the investment and planning up front. I mean, it's easy to think through that if you plan it up front, then we can use one 4-hour shoot to get what you might, if you had not planned it up front, done in 4 separate 1-hour shoots. And you know which one's going to be more expensive, right? The 4 shoots are going to be more expensive, which is why having those upfront conversations with the photographer so that we're prepared with the right lighting and the right gear and that we really know what you're going after. That's why they're so critical.
That's excellent, because we actually came up with some packaging based on that, right? Based on the value. You want to get the value, you want to get the bang for your buck. And we thought that through as well. So, and it was through our shift code training. We talked about that, the value, right? Making it work for you.
Oh, I love that. And then another question that I get asked is, how do I know what to shoot? It's obvious that if you're a restaurant or, you've got a physical product or something like that, but when you don't have those eye-catchy things, how do you know what to shoot? Where do you start? So how do you help people think through that? Where to shoot, how to shoot? What types of pieces of advice do you have that entrepreneurs can plan for before they work with your firms?
I'll jump in again and then Claire, please add on. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to use one of our guests here as an example. We went around town with Tina Larson and did a bunch of photos in a relatively short amount of time that she's been able to repurpose in a lot of different places. But the reason that we were able to do it in a relatively short amount of time is that we understood Tina's business up front. And her business is also not one that you would automatically associate with imagery. You think condos and co-ops, reducing costs for condos and co-ops, and immediately maybe these horrible stock images come to mind. But that's not what we did. We made it a very personal business by putting Tina front and center in every photo. We did different photographs of her showing like building grades of F or D or, the very rare A. We showed her in front of some caution tape, and we ended up with, a full library of images that she's been able to repurpose for her blogs, for her social media posts, etc. But again, so much of that was thinking upfront about what the business is and then creative ways about what to picture. And I think a lot of it is putting up, for those that don't readily have images popping to mind, it's about the owner and about the people within the business and making sure that your business has a personality that is expressed through photography.
Yeah, absolutely. We also sort of probe in terms of, is there something, do you have a routine that you follow that you want to share with anybody? Do you have, I don't want to call them props, but do you have a mug that you're always using every day that's, your favorite mug, and you can craft a story around that? So where Sherry had put up that mood board before, and I know, Michelle, that we all know, she does seminars on that, the mood board of what's the word that you want to convey. So your brand, and you want to convey, authenticity. So what does authenticity mean to you? And it's about being genuinely yourself. And how are you genuinely yourself? Where are you doing that? Are you out running and jogging? Is it you talking to people? Is it someone using your product or service? Is it someone being coached? If you're able to do those photos, with a client, it's thinking about, okay, so putting the words with the visuals together. So it's super important to do that work ahead of time. So very much thinking about, I like to include sort of behind the scenes things. I find those stories are very effective. We get a lot of really good feedback about that for us. So we encourage our clients to think about that. because it makes you real and human and approachable. And people are sharing stories about, we have someone we work with, you know, she broke some of the pottery she was making. So we took that. We took some photos of that where to show that she was resilient, and she was like, I'm really sad I broke that, but she got up and she made some more. So if you think about sort of things that are part of your day-to-day, things that are important to you, those are really good places to start.
That's an excellent point. And I think that's the value of working with firms like yours, that you're going to help people think through where the story is behind the image that the image can capture. So the last question, you know, it really has to do with this principle that we have for collaboration, that when we started ShiftCo from the get-go, it's based on collaborations with many folks who were my former clients who said, Terry, you've got to take this methodology. We got to build a community around it. And obviously most of the time that people join ShiftCo, they're focused on how do I grow my business? But the real power is in the collaboration with the group, the coaching group that you're with, or the collaboration of two businesses coming together that wouldn't normally do that. So talk a little bit about what you learned from the process of collaboration and how important it is, because we can get very isolated and alone in our business. And when we come together, we find that this magic happens. So can you guys share your perspective, first Sherry, you, and then Claire, about what that was like and why that's so important to be successful, that you collaborate?
I almost cried when I found Claire through ShiftCo. It was such a relief to find, because so many photography outfits out there are either, you know, the lone man or the lone woman standing who does absolutely everything and fails at it, or it's a giant conveyor belt business. And our two businesses, we were so happy to find, are so similar. Claire runs their business. I run our business. We both have really talented work and life partners. And so that at the beginning we were simpatico, but then through the actual process of one-to-ones and networking with each other and speaking over the last couple of months, and then in developing, you know, this presentation itself, both Brett and I benefited greatly, because not only did it make me think through our business more and in different ways by seeing how Claire and Andy are handling their business, but also we got some creative ideas about the photography itself. And so just a kind of cross-fertilization has just been extremely beneficial and inspiring to me.
I want to hug you right now.
Virtual
Look who
hugs.
came in. Look who popped in. Hey, it's Andy.
Hello, hello.
What was really fun for me, and I think I shared this with you yesterday, Sherry, we were talking about how to find a photographer, and that, you know, a great photographer is going to have an honest and, you know, collaborative communication style. So as we were going through this, I had some things that I wanted to change. And I said to Sherry, if you don't think this works, be honest, it's not a deal breaker. And she came back and she said, I don't think it works. And I thought, we are exemplifying, we are embodying what we're talking about. So we aren't just telling people to do this, we're doing it ourselves. And so it was really, really fun to see where we are the same and where we are different. And, you know, like Sherry just said, someone that understands, there's not a lot of photographers who chose not to be niche. There's some that have become, you know, quite adept at many different subjects now because they had to be with COVID. But both Brett and Andy before this were already guys who loved to take photos of lots of different things because it's way more interesting for them to do than, you know, one particular subject.
And way more interesting for me to
edit, right?
Yes.
So it was just really fun. Someone who understands, someone who gets me. And then this whole thing, it was an incredible learning experience, and you know, the give and take. And it was, I hope everybody gets to do this. I hope everybody does. It was amazing. Wasn't it?
And a question just came in. How do you find a good photographer? What advice do you guys have? I know you gave the what to look for, but what's the best way to find someone in your market? Obviously, they're not where you guys are.
Oh man, number one, just going back to that phrase, the proof is in the taste of the pudding. Number one, you gotta love their work. It's got to spark something in you. And if it doesn't, walk away, keep on looking, look online, look at the reviews. Be cautious with reviews, because reviews, as we all know, can be faked. But our reviews and our referrals from a lot of the good folks in this room and through ShiftCo, people who believe in our work and can talk about it for us, that goes a very long way. Listen to the people, not only the photographers whose work you love, but look around you and see how people are marketing with photographs, and go ask, who are you using? Because I want some of that.
Yeah, I think referrals are huge, and so we're making an effort to ask our clients to give a referral that includes what it's like to work with us, because you can see the photos, right? The photos speak for themselves. But what's it like to work with us? You know, or is Andy easy to work with? You know, is he collaborative? Does he have ideas? Did he make you feel comfortable?
Look at him nodding behind you.
Right? So it's your responsibility to feel comfortable. It's our role to help you get there, right? So it's about a lot of it is about the experience. There's lots of folks that hate having their photos taken because they had really bad photos before. And so I think the experience tells a lot of it, right? And Anne's on here. Anne. We took photos of Anne many moons ago when she was presenting. So finding someone, I think referrals are a really big thing, and definitely, like we sort of referred to, you know, look at their portfolios, ask someone whose photography you see. If they haven't credited the photographer, ask them, you know, who do you use? Not everybody does tag the photographer. You don't have to, but you know, it's always nice if they do. I think that's probably the best way. Yeah. And we travel, so, you know.
Yeah, I think we've got to arrange that. Get both of you guys to come to our ship.
Right.
I love that. We'll figure out how to make that happen.
Right.
Well, I want to thank both of you and your significant others for putting this together. It was incredibly helpful. I can't wait to put this in the Shift Core for members to have a good training, and then also on the public page. You guys are just delightful to work with. I love the humor. I love the way that you really brought your ideas together, and you truly exhibit everything that SHIFCO stands for. So, and thanks to our guests for joining us. We appreciate you being here as always. And thanks everybody. Stay safe out there, and know that nothing but good can come from the challenging times that we've been through. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you later.